Hello guys, it's me Simo Orahara, and in this video I would like to talk again about one of the important flashbacks in the novel. And frankly, when I hear there's a talk about the possibility of turning this novel into an anime, one of the things that makes me want to see this novel in the form of anime is not for the events that occurred 6 months after the war of Yhwach and Ichibei, but for some important flashbacks that appeared in the novel, simply because some of the information mentioned in the novel that was not mentioned in the manga, we can see them now in the new season of the anime, and the anime actually did this. For example, Hirako's Bankai. This Bankai didn't appear in the manga, it appeared in the novel, and in the anime they showed it in a short battle against some Quincy soldiers. We also saw glimpses of Ryu's past, and this story was mentioned in the novel, and probably there is a high chance to see it in detail in the anime. Therefore, all the information that was referred to by Tokinara, for example, we can see them in the anime through other characters, and it can be mixed with the context of the events. However, in the novel there is a story that I don't think there is a context for it in the Quincy arc, and therefore it is better to be turned into a special episode. And I'm talking here about the battle that took place between Ikamokodomoi and the Shinigamis, and among them are young Yamamoto and Ichibei with Nimaiya. So this flashback contains very important information of a period of time that we don't know much about it, whether in the anime or manga. For example, if this flashback was animated with more details, we will see the Soul Society in its early days, before the city was even formed, and we will even see how the Shinigami fought without Zanpakuto in that period of time, and we will see also what the world of Wikomondo was like at the time where Ikamokodomoi appeared. So that creature appeared in a period of the presence of Baragan and some powerful hollows who evolved into Vaster Lord as well as Arankara. And frankly, I would like to see this, to see the powerful hollows who existed at the time and were Vaster Lord as well as Arankara. We almost only saw that Arankara were evolved because of Hogyoku. So what will happen with the hollows who became an Arankara naturally? And not even a weak Arankara, but rather Arankara, as mentioned in the novel, they were strong creatures. And so, as I said, among this number of powerful creatures, Ikamokodomoi appeared, and knowing that this wasn't his real name, but rather the name that Ichibei gave him later. So this creature, for some reason, didn't evolve into a Vaster Lord and remained a Dukas, and his greatest strength was that he can devour a large number of souls, which increases his Ryatsu. Therefore, I think the anime would be a good chance to show us what the relation were like between Ikamokodomoi and the rest of the powerful hollows who existed at the time, especially since Ikamokodomoi had a kind of respect for Baragan, and neither of them crossed the other's boundaries. On the other hand, and this is what I find more interesting and important, it is true that Ikamokodomoi may seem like a monster without a mind whose only concern is to devour, and devour everything on his way. But he also had his own ambition. I don't know how he did this, but Ikamokodomoi knew that Ryo existed, and that he was in the Soul Society, and at the top of the heavens. That's why he decided at some point to go to the Soul Society to achieve his goal. And I think that Ikamokodomoi's goal was unusually not has something to do with being a king or ruling the world, like Aizen Sosuke or Yhwach. Because if he wanted that, he would have fought Baragan and the rest for ruling the Wikomondo. So Ikamokodomoi only wanted one thing, which was to devour a certain number of Kompaku, and this gave him a great power in terms of Ryatsu. So maybe when he heard of Ryu's existence, he thought how much Ryatsu and power he would gain if he succeeded in devouring Ryo. I mean, just thinking about this matter, I think made Ikamokodomoi go crazy to the Soul Society to achieve this goal, knowing that I don't think there is a hollow in the story who has a specific organ of Ryo. And this, by the way, is something that only relates to the hollows. All the other races have someone who had an organ inside them. I mean, if we come to the Shinigami, Okitake had within him Mimihagi, the right hand. The Quincy's, there is Gerard, who has the king's heart, while the Forbring, the basis of their power, the king's fragments, and even Aura had the Sakitsu of Ryo. As for the hollows, we don't know someone has an organ of Ryo, perhaps because of the fact that Ryo didn't have the power of the hollow in the first place. He has only Quincy power, Shinigami, and Forbring. Therefore, it seems that Ikamokodomoi's desire was to eat Ryu in the hope of obtaining greater power. And actually, I don't know how the world would be like if Ikamokodomoi had succeeded in eating Ryu. I mean, are the world would be destroyed, or he will be like Yuhabach when he had eaten Mimihage and Ryu. But what happened is that when he went to the Soul Society in a period that was different from the period that we know, to the point that at the time, as I said, there wasn't something called Zanpakuto yet. It is enough to know that Yamamoto was still young at the time. Imagine with me, 2000 years ago, Yamamoto looked like someone in his 50s. So how many centuries do we have to go back until we find the young Yamamoto? There is no doubt that it will be another 2000 years or something like that. Therefore, things in that period were very different. There was no Gute 13, there was no Shinigami Academy, and I don't know whether there was even something called Zero Squad, because the only one who were at the time were Nimaiya and Ichibei. Therefore, I don't believe that the concept of the Zero Squad was the same concept as we know it today. What we know is that a battle took place between the Shinigamis and Ikamokodomoi, but we don't know its exact details. For example, did Ichibei and Nimaiya come down from the Royal Palace and fight with Yamamoto? Because what is mentioned in the novel is that Ikamokodomoi tried to ascend to the Royal Palace to devour Ryu, but because of his battle against the Shinigami, he was defeated at the hands of Ichibei and Nimaiya. Therefore, I say that the battle may have taken place in Serity or in a place in the Soul Society and not in the Royal Palace. So what I think happened is as follows. First, we must keep in mind that the power of Ikamokodomoi that appeared in the novel doesn't constitute his real power, because in the novel he wasn't fighting under his real name, but unlike when he entered the Soul Society for the first time, he was at full strength, and therefore I think his basic abilities were another stage, whether in terms of speed, I mean here Sonido, the power of Ryatsu, as well as Zero, and therefore I imagine how the Shinigami fought a monster with such power and without even possessing a Zanpakuto. I think they were fighting with Kido and the basic swords only, a sword that doesn't contain any particular power, but it seems this wasn't enough to stop Ikamokodomoi. It is true that the story didn't refer to the defeat of Yamamoto. What we know is that at some stage, Ichibei and Nimaiya intervened to fight Ikamokodomoi, especially since Ichibei at the time had Ichimonji, the Zanpakuto Ichimonji. It is true that the Zanpakuto wasn't yet with the Shinigami, but at the time they had reached advanced stages in its manufacture, and therefore Ichibei seems to be the first one to obtain a Zanpakuto, and he had said something about that when he was fighting Yuhabach. So did Nimaiya also have a Zanpakuto? We don't know, but it could be. However, there is no doubt that Nimaiya and Ichibei knew the danger of the situation they were in, because the difficulty doesn't lie on the strength of Ikamokodomoi alone, but the problem is they shouldn't kill him in the normal way, because he had devoured millions of Kumpaku, and therefore purifying him in a normal way will be a difficult process, and it may lead to an imbalance in the worlds. Therefore, you have to fight an opponent without killing him. That's why I think that Ichimonji's ability was the good solution to stop Ikamokodomoi. It is true that he will have caused them some troubles in the beginning because he is very fast and has high destructive power. But at the same time, Ichibei has also techniques, like forming large hands and feet that can stop Ikamokodomoi. And then he could use ink to remove the real name. So when the real name of Ikamokodomoi was removed, then automatically the power of Ikamokodomoi was greatly reduced. Because as Ichibei said, the power of things lies in their name. And therefore they have taken him in some way to the Royal Palace. And there began the process of giving him the new name using Bankai of Ichibei. And then sealing him in a sword. And that's how the story of Ikamokodomoi ended at that era, and I really hope to see it in the anime so we can see all of these things. Like I said, to see the Soul Society in its early age, also the weak commando, the powerful beings like the Vast Lord and the Arankara, and also Ikamokodomoi, and more than that, as I said, how the battle took place between Ikamokodomoi and the Shinigamis. So guys, what do you think about this? Can we see this in the anime? Tell me your opinions, and see you guys in my next video.